Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time and welcome to my channel, folks. So there's some really eventful stuff happening on the floor of the United States Senate as the trial of former President Trump is going on. If you do want me to cover it, let me know in the comments section below. But folks, in this video, I'm going to answer some questions about all the stimulus that has been provided so far and the fact that $1 trillion out of the $4 trillion in stimulus that has been passed so far, not including the American Rescue Plan. One out of $4 trillion has not even been used yet, but is scheduled to be used. So folks, in this video, I'll provide you information about almost $4 trillion in stimulus that has been authorized by Congress, but $1 trillion out of the $4 trillion has still not been used yet. Now, out of the $3 trillion that has been used, roughly 1/3 of the $3 trillion went to help struggling families through stimulus checks, through unemployment benefits and food stamps. Now, this leaves right around $1 trillion, yup, $1 trillion that has not yet been sent out. And on top of this, President Biden is pushing for the $1.9 trillion, the massive $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. Now, I do want our viewers and subscribers to know that a majority of the $1 trillion that has not been spent yet is scheduled to be spent over time, and most of that money will indeed be spent. So it's not like that money is not going to be used. It is going to be used over a period of time because that money has already been allocated. So folks, there is a committee called a Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, which is basically a fiscal watchdog group. They put up a website where they're actually tracking the spending. Let's show you the website on your screen right now. And so folks, this website that you see on your screen is the COVID tracker website, and it explores the data and tracks the trillions of dollars of federal spending, tax cuts, all sorts of incentives, loans, grants, and subsidies that have been provided as a direct result of the pandemic. Now, I want you folks to focus on the orange section, which is the legislative actions. These are the stimulus bills that have been passed by Congress, and that darker portion, that $2.9 trillion, represents money that has already been disbursed. And you can see that the total amount is 4.1 trillion. So well over $1 trillion is still allocated, but has not yet been dispersed, has not yet been spent. So let's examine where this money is going to be spent, this $1 trillion from all the stimulus bills that have been passed by Congress so far, not just the CARES Act, but also the most recently signed bill by former President Trump, the $900 billion package that led to the second stimulus check, that led to the $600 stimulus checks. Keep in mind, the American Rescue Plan, folks, is going to add to this. So you see, let's show you the COVID tracker on your screen again, the legislative actions. You see it's $4.1 trillion. Imagine that increasing by 1/3. So that's going to go from 4.1 trillion all the way to 6 trillion. And again, the orange component, that darker component, if you will, the orange component, that is the amount of money that has already been dispersed. And the rest of it, the remainder of the money, is money that has been allocated but has not yet been spent. So folks, let's examine what has not been spent. Let's start with the first part, which is $500 billion from March 2020 from the CARES Act has not yet been spent. That's $500 billion. So about a significant portion of what is left is money related to ongoing Medicaid spending and some long-term business loans known as the economic injury disaster loans. These are also called as the EIDL loans. Now, I want you to know that we are still in the middle of a PHE, a public health emergency. So the Medicaid matching payments, in other words, the federal government through Medicaid trying to help with Medicaid expenses, is going to continue through the rest of the public health emergency. And the EIDL loans weren't as popular as the Paycheck Protection Program money, because the Paycheck Protection Program is essentially a forgivable loan. But the EIDL loans weren't as popular as people thought, even though it's a very low interest loan. So folks, the next part is money for schools that has been allocated but has not yet been spent. This is a big area of contention, as we can see right now, between the Republicans and the Democrats. The Democrats want more money for school funding, and the Republicans are saying, why should we provide more money for school funding if the schools are not reopening? In fact, the American Rescue Plan from President Biden asks for $130 billion in aid for schools, while the Republican plan from the 10 Republican senators includes just $20 billion. What they say is that a big chunk of money that was allocated for schools in prior packages has not yet been spent. So Keep in mind that $68 billion was allocated for schools in December by the federal government, but only $4.4 billion out of the $68 billion has actually been spent so far. According to Biden administration officials, a lot of this money will indeed be spent in the coming weeks, and the additional money that the Democrats are asking for as far as school funding is concerned would help prevent layoffs in the coming school year. So what the Biden administration is saying, hey, we need money now so that we don't have layoffs next year in schools. Now, the next component that is unspent, folks, is half of the money in the most recent $900 billion stimulus plan that was signed by former President Trump has not yet been spent. So, folks, part of this is if you're on unemployment right now and you're getting the $300 a week booster, that's where the money is coming from the most recent $900 billion package. So, approximately $120 billion from the most recent $900 billion package is yet to be spent because that money is going to be used on unemployment benefits, on food stamps. Now, the unemployment benefits are set to expire on March, and the 15% increase in SNAP benefits for food stamps is going to continue for the next 6 months. So, this money is money that has been allocated in the most recent $900 billion bill, but has not yet been spent. Also, folks, the most recent stimulus plan that was signed by former President Trump renewed the Paycheck Protection Program so that businesses could come back for another round of PPP loans, which are forgivable loans for businesses if they satisfy certain criteria. So more than $200 billion still remains in the Paycheck Protection Program. Folks, I think you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking, which is that all our lawmakers argue so much about stimulus checks, about unemployment benefits, and then there's leftover money in other programs that is not used. So think about this, $200 billion left unused in the Paycheck Protection Program. This money could send stimulus checks, could send 1,400 stimulus checks for almost half of the American population. Think about this. The total allocation for stimulus checks in the American Rescue Plan, the $1.9 trillion plan, is $460 billion, designed to send $1,400 stimulus checks to 85% of the population. And there is a $200,000 threshold that I talked about earlier. But $200 billion from the most recent stimulus package, the $900 billion stimulus package, $200 billion for the Paycheck Protection Program, still unused. That money could have sent $1,400 stimulus checks to individuals earning less than a certain income threshold. That money could have gone to help those who need it the most. Now, I do want to make it clear, the $200 billion has not been used so far, but there's a very high probability that it will indeed be used because the Small Business Administration is processing loans. So the most recent data suggests that almost 900,000 loan applications totaling $72 billion were already approved by the Small Business Administration in the first few weeks since the second round of the Paycheck Protection Program began. Now, folks, in contrast, remember the $600 stimulus check payments, a second stimulus check. A vast majority of those have already gone out as per latest data from the IRS, because the IRS distributes the money under the directions of the US Treasury Department. The vast majority of the $166 billion for the direct $600 stimulus checks has indeed already gone out. There's about $35 billion of stimulus checks still remaining to be sent out by the IRS, and this will most likely be claimed by people who didn't receive their money when they file their 2020 tax return. So, folks, this gives you a breakdown of fundamentally how the money has been used so far. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I appreciate you watching. This tells us that there are definitely pockets of inefficiency as far as the money is concerned, and a lot of us need help right now, and a lot of us are struggling to get help right now, whereas tens, in some cases hundreds of billions of dollars are allocated but not spent yet. That money could have immediately gone to help those who needed help the most, and that money could potentially have been allocated later by Congress. So that's it, everybody. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please click like, please subscribe, please enable notifications. I would really appreciate that. That would mean a lot to me. That helps out the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video of Ignition Time.